Welcome to another episode of Sanford Says. My name is Lisa Holder, Communications Officer for the City of Sanford, and we are back. It's 2021. This is our first episode of 2021, and my very special guest today is Amy King. Amy is the Planning Director for the City of Sanford. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to our listeners. So today's topic is going to be planning, all things planning, and some of the latest projects that the City of Sanford is currently in process with, and some information about an upcoming virtual workshop that I'm sure you'd be very interested in learning about. So Amy, since you are fairly new, was it like 7 or 8 months with the City of Sanford now, or longer?
That is right. So yes, I am the Director of Planning. I started on March 16th, the day we shut the doors to the public because of COVID-19. So I was walking in the door as we were hanging the signs to say no public.
Okay, so that must have been very challenging, I'm sure, and not being able to see other staff and you know, because we were working from home virtually during that time. It was right?
My very first day, the city manager called us executive directors to the table and said, "What do we do now?"
Right.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And so I got to meet all the executive directors because we weren't sure if we were going to start being spatially separated. We didn't know what the terms were. We didn't know how things were going to evolve or anything. So it was probably one of 2 meetings that we had as executive team without being virtual.
Right.
So we were all together, and I said something, and I can't remember what it was that I said, but the city manager looked at me and said, "Wow, brand new director, welcome aboard."
Right. Couldn't be, really, life doesn't give you things that you can't handle. So starting your first day in the middle of a pandemic when city government has to shut their doors to the public is challenging. But here we are. It's months later. And we are at City Hall. The city has had several projects that continued during the pandemic. We are raring to go in 2021. And you have some of that information, right? That, you know.
I do. So I was just going to tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been here for almost 8 months. I came from the city of New Smyrna Beach. I have been there for 4 years. And it was an absolutely beautiful city, of course. Before that, I was with unincorporated Lake County. I started out as a planning manager and went to being the deputy growth management director to being the growth management director over GIS, the building department, code enforcement, planning, different other departments as time went by. Of course, I was there for 13 years. Before that, I was with the city of Claremont. Before that, I was with the state of Tennessee as a circuit planner. And in Tennessee back then, it doesn't exist anymore, the local planning office did all the small towns outside of Memphis and Nashville and planned for the counties and cities that were too impoverished to hire a planner.
Right.
And so in Tennessee, as the planning director for all these small towns, you sometimes had to be the building official, the code enforcement officer, or whatever that town needed.
Right.
So I did that for 5 years. So all in all, this will be my 26th year as being a planning director of sorts.
Right. So the city of Sanford is very fortunate to have you with us. And it's been a pleasure working with you. It has. And getting to know you, Amy.
It's very exciting. Yes. I love this city.
Yeah. And so in the city of Sanford, the planning division is within what we have called now the Development Services Department, which includes, as you had mentioned earlier, like code enforcement, the building division, correct, and planning.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's great news, and you have a wealth of knowledge and experience to take Sanford to the next level. Because I personally think planning is just like the creme de la creme. It is, to me, it just is everything, and it's so interesting because you get to choose and help choose what is what the future is of your city, right? And how and the building of projects, etc.
Oh, it is so incredible, and the staff, this planning staff is so talented. So we just had a staff meeting this morning, and I brought a list of projects that we're currently working on, which I'll tell you about in just a second. But I just want to brag on the staff here for a moment. I am American Institute of Certified Planners, but there are also 3 others that are AICP, which is, we love our acronyms in planning. They're AICP, and Sabrina Colbert is just now going for her AICP, but Jordan Smith, Eileen Hinson, and Julie Schofield is also AICP. So she's the Historic Preservation Officer. As you know, you've interviewed her before. I'll be talking about one of her projects here in just a moment. And they are so brilliant and talented. And then, of course, Chris Smith, who's the project manager. And then we've got Sam, who is also very talented, who works our zoning counter. Jordan Smith, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but Juliana Pierres, and
I think you got everyone.
I think I got everybody.
Yeah,
They are all so very talented, and I'm very gifted to be able to work with them. So it's been a pleasure.
Yes, it has. And so your rock star team is part of what's you're going to be mentioning here in momentarily. So let's get to it, Amy. Let's share some of the projects.
Well, one of the biggest projects that we're working on collectively is the historic Goldsboro land use and zoning project. So that's something that we're not just working on as the planning group, but we're also working on with Mr. Andrew Thomas. So we're using a lot of information that was gathered long before I got here. So I think over the last couple of years. And because it's been gathered for such a long time, and then COVID came in and just sort of stopped everything. So we are still trying to gather as much public participation as we possibly can, and then use that to build a future land use map for Goldsboro. And we'll get into more about future land use maps here in just a moment when we talk about resilience. But the future land use map and the comprehensive plan is the guiding foundation for planning. And because of the comprehensive plan, we're able to build zoning. So it's the foundation for the zoning map. Zoning is what tells you what you can do in particular. Mm-hmm. So where you can put your fence, how tall you can build your building, those types of things. The comprehensive plan just gives you the goal. So the comprehensive plan is made out of chapters, which we call elements.
Okay.
So Goldsboro will now have its own category to really identify Goldsboro.
Within the comp plan?
Within the comp plan.
Within the city's comp plan. Okay.
So that's one of the biggest projects that we're working on collectively. And I mentioned Julie Schofield earlier, the Historic Preservation Office. We just found out that there is going to be a 3rd historic district. So a 3rd historic district, pretty remarkable. I think it is the only 3rd historic district in Seminole County. So we are hoping to build more publicity about that through you, Lisa Holder.
Okay.
And so
I'm wondering what this is. I'm sitting on pins and needles here, so because I don't even know. I mean, it's you have the downtown, right? Historic downtown residential district.
Well, there's more to come.
Okay.
And so I'm not going to steal Julie's thunder, but there's more to come about that.
Okay.
We are also working on an airport ordinance to come more in compliance with the state statutes. So we're working with Tom Nolan, the brand new executive officer for the airport, and he is from Palm Springs, California, my home state.
Right.
And he's also a Packer fan. I love the Packers.
Okay.
So we're getting along great, and Chris, project manager, Chris Smith is working on that within the planning department. The school board is working with Sanford on an interlocal agreement as well, and that's moving along very smoothly. That's going to be going to the Planning and Zoning Board on Thursday.
I have a question, raising my hand.
Okay.
Planning Director, what is an interlocal agreement for those that are listening that may not know what that is? In like elevator speed.
As Commissioner Britton said to me the other day, a couple of weeks ago, she said, "Speak to me like I'm a 4-year-old." And I had to giggle because planners always forget. I even have here, I don't even say interlocal agreement, I say ILA.
Yeah.
So I got to remember. So
it's okay.
An interlocal agreement is when one local government or quasi-judicial kind of government, or
like the airport.
So when one entity and another entity have to enter into an agreement, it's an interlocal agreement.
Yeah, so it is what it says, interlocal. Think about that. So yeah, and I just wanted to just clarify that for everybody who's listening, because when we're talking to the planning director, we're like big time now, so we have to make sure that we.
Oh, you're making me giggle. So the airport and the school board, those are both interlocal agreements.
Okay.
So now, this next agreement is a joint planning agreement, which is all the cities in Seminole County and Seminole County.
Okay.
So, but the joint planning agreement that I'm speaking of right now is just between Sanford and Seminole County.
Okay.
So as opposed to the school board, which is all the cities and the school board.
Okay.
This joint planning agreement is just between Seminole County and Sanford.
And it's for what?
Everything or anything.
Okay.
So we could include, for instance, planning issues. Oh. We could include the fire department. We could include building. We could include normally the police department doesn't get involved because the sheriff has jurisdiction in and out of the city.
Right. Okay.
So it could include code enforcement. It could include Parks and Rec.
Right.
It could include just planning.
I see. And so it is something that's set in place, an agreement that will be set in place so that moving forward, business can be done without any interruptions or waiting for approvals. Is that right? Because
yes,
you have the agreement in place. I see.
So you draw a boundary bigger than your city, and then you have mutual understanding between the county and the city as to what occurs in that area that's not incorporated.
Right. And we mean, which is incorporated would be,
you're already annexed.
Yeah, you're already annexed into this municipality city limit. And if you're unincorporated, that's where, like unincorporated Seminole County, you're not a city, you don't pay city water, that kind of thing. You pay your county technical taxpayer, right?
Correct.
Okay. Got it. I learn too, all the time.
All
Never
right.
stop learning. Yep, and so that's those are projects that are going underway right now.
Yep, and we're halfway there. So another project that we're working on, and this is one that we're working on and helping review with the county, is something called the East Lake Mary Small Area Study. So this is going out toward the airport. East Lake Mary Small Area Study is something that the county chose to study a couple of years ago. They're at the point now to where they had a draft that they were going to put out in January. I just talked to county staff right before the New Year's holiday, and they said that they had some technical difficulties and they won't be putting out that draft until March. So yet to be seen.
Okay.
They have Renaissance Planning doing it for them, and they want to get public participation and everything else that planners love. So they are going to make sure that it's technically as sound as possible.
Right.
They had a lot of I read a lot of the public participation that they've gotten so far, and they're getting a lot of mixed views coming from the business community versus the residential community. But I think they're going to try and get some of those things hammered out before they get the draft put out. But their staff is a lot bigger.
Yes.
It's a county as opposed to a city. Yeah. So I'm sure that their timing of getting the draft out is probably well thought out.
And when you say draft out, that's for a contractor, or what do you mean? Who?
The draft of the study.
Okay, goes to their commissioners to approve, or?
I think they're going to take it to a workshop first.
Okay.
And then their planning and zoning board.
I see.
And then to the commission.
Right. And so when you talk about all these different sort of levels and checks and balances and public participation, it's all part of the process, not only just because it's helpful to planners, but legally it's needed and required to have public input.
Yes. And when you say legally, it actually is legally because it's due process.
Right. Exactly. All right. So we've got that. That was the East Lake. Say that again.
East Lake Mary Small Area Study
by the airport area, Sanford area. Sanford Airport. And so as we continue here, we want everybody to know that this information is available also on the city website, the county website, right? And following up, if you're interested in learning more about the projects, you can contact the planning department directly,
Absolutely.
Amy. But it's sanfordfl.gov, and then the county website, I believe, is Seminole County FL.gov. Anyhow, I just thought I'd share that because we're going over things very briefly here, but you can in depth find out more on the online.
Okay.
What's next?
So what's next? I don't think anybody is unaware of the fact that we have the Seminole Town Square Mall. We definitely have a mall. It is a mall.
It is. It's the word mall, M-A-L-L. I mean, it sounds like a 1980-ish, but
and the very, very, very sad news that the gym is closing.
We saw that. Yeah,
yes. Apex is closing.
It is sad.
And so it's moving to Lake Nona, in fact. And it's heartbreaking. It is truly heartbreaking. So I'm devastated by that.
Yeah, because they were a big, what do you call it, placement there?
It's an anchor.
Yeah, an anchor store or anchor business, definitely.
It was an anchor use. And, you know, I don't know what to say about that. But truth be told, we took the uses to the city commission and just asked the city commission, what do you think? What do you think? We need to repurpose this.
Right.
Do we want to demolish it? Do we want to see apartments here? Do we want to see medical plaza? What do we want to see here? And then I went ahead and proffered this, that what the planning staff does not want to see here is any kind of outdoor storage. We don't want to see anything that would not take the highest and best visibility from I-4 and put anything that is not the best for Sanford. We want to see something beautiful out here, no matter what it is. So we want to make sure that whatever gets repurposed with that mall, even if it is still that same structure and it's not redone structurally, we want to make sure that the buffers and the landscaping, the paint itself is redone in such a way that the pavement that you're driving on is redone in such a way that it comes back and it makes you feel like you felt when you were a teenager and you wanted to go walk around the mall.
Right.
And have your first date at the movie theater. Yeah. Because and I'm not going to use acronyms or terms that get confusing, but when you look at the tire place, the mall, and the movie theater, it's all a part of what planners call a planned development. That whole thing is a part of a single project that's like 100 pages long to read. And any one of the listeners are welcome to read it if you like to. But Lisa threw her hands up just so the listeners know. In other words, no, she does not want to read it. No. She leaves it up to people like me. We want to see something beautiful and spectacular because that's what Sanford deserves.
Right. The best for Sanford. We want the best for the city.
We want what is best and beautiful and bright, and so we want it repurposed in such a way that when it comes back to life, that people really feel it.
And yeah, it's primo location, so we'll wait to hear the progress on that, Amy.
Yeah, and then just one real quick last thing. We're working on a parking study, and a parking study for all of the future events that we have back in Sanford. And so we want people to make sure that when they come back downtown that they can park and they feel comfortable parking and that it's well lit and they feel safe.
Perfect. Wonderful.
So, last thing, we've got our virtual community workshop coming up on January 13th at 5:30. So again, it's virtual, and I'll let Lisa share more with you about it.
Yeah, we would love for everybody. Basically, it's a planning initiative and working with the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity and the East Central Florida Planning Council?
East Central Florida Regional Planning Council.
And with those folks, and it is a workshop that's online, January 13th. 5:30 to 7, and it is set in place to create a more sustainable, prosperous, healthy, and connected Sanford community. So we're asking people, business owners, residents, those that have an interest, stakeholders in the city of Sanford to register online. You could visit our Facebook page, our city website, sanfordfl.gov, and access the link, the meeting link. There's a Facebook event on the city's Facebook page, City of Sanford, Florida Government. Log in, register, and join the meeting. You can listen. You don't necessarily have to share your ideas now if you don't want to, but Amy King will be there and Jordan Smith and her planners, and they will be recording all of this information. It's a community workshop, community input, because like we said earlier, the public participation process in government is very critical.
Absolutely.
It is very critical. And so in the long run, the feedback, Amy, is going to be used for what purpose?
Again, so this is one component of the public participation is one component of getting your word into the comprehensive plan. So that is the policy that makes everything happen for the city. Therefore, we get into the zoning and we get your words into the comprehensive plan, which becomes a part of zoning.
Which is the foundation of future development, I would say.
Of the city of Sanford.
Yes. I don't know why I'm thinking of like a cake and ingredients or like layers in a cake, because that there's layers to what has to be done in order to get the end result. Right?
Yes. So the comp plan is the cake. The zoning is the icing.
There you go. Love it. We're a great team here, I think.
Well, anytime you'll have me, I am more than happy to join you for your next podcast in 2021.
Yes, we'd love to have you back on. That's Amy King. Amy is the planning director for the city of Sanford. Thank you and your shining stars, your staff, for helping with the planning initiatives for the city of Sanford each and every day. And thank you for listening to the City of Sanford podcast. This is Lisa Holder, Communications Officer. You can find this podcast wherever you subscribe to your favorite podcast. Tell a friend about it. We'll catch you next time. Stay tuned. Be safe out there. And have a great day. See you soon.